small sample size are starting to get us hyped, even though I'm sure we're going to murky dismal on a little bit of this. The Bears' offense and defense did look good, and rookie Caleb Williams shined against the Bengals. Second unit on the lakefront today, the Bears won 27-3, defeating Cincinnati. Let's start off right there with Caleb Williams. Caleb was 6 of 13 for 75 yards, a QB rating of 64, and he rushed for a TD. He probably had another TD with Rome if he put his foot down, and we can hope that Tyler Scott, that was a touchdown, but it was a huge chunk play if it wasn't for a pass interference grab from behind. Your thoughts on Caleb and how he played with the 3 and outs, Josh, and then finally getting it going later on in the first half?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably what this season's going to be a lot of, right? I think the rookie roller coaster is just going to go up and down. There's going to be a lot of moments of, wow, that is a hell of a throw, the pocket presence, the arm talent, the playmaking, and then there's going to be times where you're like, all right, he's not on the same page with Keenan Allen, there's a grounding, or, hey, miscommunication here on a route, or, the offensive line still needs to gel. So, I mean, it was really ugly early. I mean, the first 3 series it was a tough hang, man. It was a really tough hang with me and Caleb Williams today. And the flashes of yeah. I was ready to go. I was ready to just pick up my bag and get out of here if we're going to do that. But the last drive, I mean, the flashes of brilliance. I mean, the Bengals 2s and 3s, but I thought the play to Rome where Rome was out of bounds, that was the play of the day. I don't even care if it doesn't count. Like that was absolutely insane pocket presence, evasiveness, frees the rusher, sprinting out of bounds, throws an absolute rope. And because for some reason Soldier Field today did not have the back end line painted full white, Rome was just standing out of bounds. So I don't know what that was about. We asked Rome about it afterwards, and he was like, it's on me. I got to be better. But yeah, that threw me off because I looked down and I just saw green grass, and I was like, oh, I'm tiptoeing this thing. This is a touchdown. Look, Caleb Williams is special. You're getting no murky dismal out of me. There's a lot of room to grow. They got a lot of work to do. There's some kinks they got to work out, both with him, both with the operation, getting on the same page with everyone. The offensive line has got to be better. I mean, Nate Davis was legitimately blocking air on the sack. I know that Caleb Williams said, hey, that's on me. I gotta get rid of the ball, but Nate Davis kind of got spun around like a top. He's got to be better. But everything just about Caleb Williams just feels different. I know people are going to say, hey, kind of look like Justin Fields at point. What was different about it? It is different. It's very different. I think he's special, but a lot of work to do. And he's probably not going to play on Thursday, but my takeaway is talent's still there. It's going to go up and down. Talk to Joe Burrow about it. He's got to stay even keeled and he'll get there.
One of the biggest differences I noticed, as long as we're talking about differences between Caleb Williams and Justin Fields, where Justin Fields had a lot of these uneven performances, and this was certainly an uneven performance. Caleb Williams is always looking downfield, and we've seen that a bunch, and it was on display throughout the day today, where when he's scrambling, Justin Fields would scramble, and then it would be quick to take off, which, at times was great. He was an electric playmaker with his legs. He ran for some absurd touchdown runs with his legs. He picked up a lot of first downs with his legs. Difference is Caleb Williams is keeping his eyes downfield and looking to make a pass until truly the last possible moment. And then once he is absolutely certain he is out of options and out of time and has exhausted everything, then he'll take off and run. We saw that against the Bills on the long third down rush. And we saw that on his touchdown run where he's dancing. He is staying behind the line of scrimmage. He is going through his progressions, and then he's going back and he's going to look to see if anybody got through once he's through all his progressions. And then once that's all done, then he'll run. So that is a huge, huge difference of someone who is truly trying to make play with his arm first. I'll bring in a little murky dismal, though. I'm starting to wonder if Caleb Williams over relies on the off platform. This was the first time where it's like the off-platform throws that he makes are insane. And that's why he does it, because he can. The throw to Rome Odunze, again, off of his back foot, to be able to place it absolutely perfectly on the run on his back foot is ludicrous. It doesn't make sense at times. But then, the play, I want to say right before that, where the pocket is kind of collapsing, and he's doing a great job navigating that pocket, and that's kind of his sixth sense. He's really, really good at that. to me, it felt like, okay, he maybe had a time to reset his feet, plant, deliver a strike. Instead, he delivers another off-platform throw, and it was kind of in between two guys. It was kind of a throw to nobody. And I wonder if he, takes an extra half second. It's a lot easier for me to say from my position in the press box, watching the pocket and watching him. Right, exactly. Watching him have some more space to negotiate than it is for him, obviously, in the moment. But that felt like a moment where, okay, if he does take that extra split second, plants his foot, drives the ball, maybe it's a completion instead of a kind of ugly pass to the middle of nowheresville. But again, it's hard to coach that out of him because that is part of his superpower. Is that he can do those things. So that's going to be a fine line for the Bears in do these things that make you special, that make you Caleb Williams, but, maybe don't rely on them too much. Plant, drive footballs when you can. So that was a thing that, kind of for the first time dinged for me today.
Yeah, I would think you and I had the same thought on the throw that went between Gerald Everett and Rome Odunze. It was like, oh, that was not great, but I don't think he over relies on it. I think that's kind of what they've been working on that, right? Then working on finding the line of like, hey, when you have to use it and it bails you out, that's awesome. But just reset your feet. And it looked like he might have stumbled. I got to go back and rewatch because he kind of like clunked his feet a little bit, but he definitely had time. So I think that's just part of the development, right? They got to figure out how to kind of clean things up without like making Caleb Williams not be Caleb Williams.
All right. So I'm happy you guys kicked off the murky so I don't come in hot. First, I want to say this. I was not murky. You stay away from me.
I brought in the murky.
Okay. Well, you brought in realism, and I am super happy with what I've seen from Caleb Williams. I'll say this too, when we're talking about past rookie quarterbacks, he hasn't really been turning over the ball. So even when you have slow starts, usually there's an interception or a bad exchange that are also factored in and kind of helps to put you behind the eight ball. The offense hasn't been necessarily. The chemistry hasn't been working all the way in the early parts of the game, but still it hasn't hamstrung them. Like that's really been a plus where having this defense allows them somewhat. And I know there are going to be games where they can't do that. Alex, your point, Jim Miller, former Bears quarterback, mentioned what you said, that perhaps he could have set his feet. But Josh, you're right. The turf monster kind of got his toes, right? Yeah. So it was kind of like, maybe he thought he was higher off the ground and he wasn't, but his toes kind of got caught, and that may have, in my opinion, affected his accuracy. But still, Alex, you hit on something that I was thinking about watching the game is where is going to be that balance with this offensive line, and we finally kind of saw the starters out there together, and this is the first time where will they be who they're supposed to be, hopefully, because he may have to play that style of play. But even with his innate pocket presence that he exemplifies, there still seems sometimes where it's like, and again, he keeps his eyes downfield. I want to get out on the sides, on the left and right side, and throw this ball out on the run. And I wonder, as you mentioned, the balance. And I'm thinking, and I don't think it's a negative thing, Josh, too, kind of what you're saying about how this may be a roller coaster ride throughout the season. Yeah. Because as long as he's not putting you behind the eight ball, but he's still a weapon to be used out there, I think it could be pretty good. And sometimes you're going to wish you had a veteran with his potential out there compared to what he can do. Josh, question. You mentioned Joe Burrow talking about being a rookie and breaking in. What were some of the other things that he pointed out? One, what does he think about Caleb? But what else did he point out that Caleb has to do to take his game to another level in the pros?
Well, I think the cool thing about the fact that they did the joint practices with the Bengals was there are very few teams that are kind of have been in the place the Bears are at, right? They number one overall pick, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, franchise who has just been in the doldrums looking for a franchise signal caller, and you have a head coach in Zach Taylor who had the task of developing, not ruining Joe Burrow. And with Joe, we kind of asked first. He knows Caleb. He hosted Caleb on a visit to LSU in 2019. They've thrown together, so they're friendly. But I asked him just about being a rookie and having ups and downs. And he remembers losing a game against Matt Eberflus when they threw a blitz at him that he'd never seen. He threw a game-losing interception. And he was like, look, the biggest thing about all this, he said, I will not give Caleb any advice. Caleb Williams does not need my advice. When you've gone through what we've both been through and he's been in LA, he'll be just fine as long as he just stays where his feet are at. But he said the most important thing is just throughout this entire thing, every single rep is valuable, and you just have to find a way, whether you throw 5 touchdowns or a game-losing interception, work you do the next day has to be the same no matter what. And if you can just have an even-keeled aura, everything kind of coalesces around you and you'll be fine. And Zach Taylor, I asked, what did you learn? Like, how did you succeed in developing Joe Burrow? What are the lessons you learned? He was like, honestly, what the Bears have right now is better than what we had, right? You need to have talent, you need to have a good defense, and you need to have teachers. And he said Shane Waldron's one of the best teachers in the NFL. So really the Bengals gave a glowing review of everything the Bears are trying to do and of Caleb Williams' talent. And I don't think roller coaster is a negative term. I think all rookie quarterbacks have moments. Like CJ Stroud is held up as this paragon of rookie quarterback play, and he scored like 6 points against the Panthers. Like, there are just going to be games where Caleb Williams doesn't play well, and that's okay. And there's going to be games where you're like, man, he threw for 395 yards and 4 touchdowns. That was really cool. Let's do that again. And it's going to go up and down. And as long as at the end of the ride, he's in a really good place developmentally, he's probably going to take off because he has that kind of rare talent. The Bears just have to figure out how to polish everything up.
Real quick question. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say something, Alex. Real quick.
That was a mic drop moment. I have nothing.
I know. That's why I was like, let me jump in. Can't have that air just dead out there. No. You mentioned miscues with the wide receivers, and Alex, I want you to talk about in the past here with the Bears, perhaps how long it took for it didn't have to be rookie, but it can be rookie, but quarterbacks and wide receivers who have not played together. And Josh, in past organizations and along with the Bears, how long does it usually take for there to be a chemistry and the ability to know what someone is thinking without necessarily seeing it open first?
Well, it's really variable. I'll look as recently as last year with Justin Fields and DJ Moore. It seemed like that chemistry happened right away. It was noticeable right away. DJ Moore came to camp and it was like, oh, this dude is a wide receiver one compared to what we had been seeing. And that carried over. It wasn't the first game of the season. I feel like there were questions about what do you need to do to get DJ Moore the ball? And they're like, we're working on it. We'll figure it out. And then pretty much right after that, they did figure it out. And DJ Moore was phenomenal for the rest of the season. So it can happen right away. And then sometimes maybe it doesn't happen at all, right? We heard so much about Justin Fields and his off-field chemistry with Darnell Mooney and how they were the best of buddies and they were spending all this time together and it was going to click on the football field. And then it just never really did, And I know that there were some injuries involved with Darnell Mooney getting hurt towards the end of the 2022 season. And then there can be somewhere in between, right? I'm trying to think Allen Robinson and Mitchell Trubisky because 2020 was the first season that I started really covering this team. And that was the last year for Allen Robinson. But before that, there can be that in between. Let's talk about Cole Kmet, I guess, where Cole Kmet, it takes him a while to get going. Obviously, tight end is a very tough position. It's super different from wide receiver. But then slowly, as time goes on, Cole Kmet develops into a legitimate pass-catching threat, not only between the 20s, but in the red zone as well. So I don't know that there's a hard and fast rule. I think it takes time. I think it's probably a case-by-case situation. But the best way to do it, it seems, and what we hear over and over is just time on task. It's the reps, as Josh was saying. And the more they play together, the better chances are that things will coalesce. And if they stay on the field together, that's probably the best recipe for success.
Yeah, I think it's really dependent on the quarterback and the receiver. Like, I think sometimes it just doesn't click. Sometimes that's to do with experience. Like, I remember in San Francisco, a big part of the Deebo Samuel trade request kind of deal was like he just wasn't feeling it with Trey Lance. Like they couldn't figure it out, right? And like he knew that after Jimmy was gone, this was going to be the quarterback. And he was like, man, like they would work it. And it was just like something was off, right? Sometimes you just don't click. I mean, we got pages of receivers who arrived in New England and Tom Brady was like, yeah, no, thank you. I'll just throw it to Wes Welker and Julian. And like, I'll throw it to Chris Hogan because me and Chris Hogan, we got this. You were way more talented than him, but we're good. So I think it has a lot to do just with the personalities. And I think this is probably going to take a little longer just because Caleb's a rookie. And I think sometimes it's just going to take, he's got a lot to learn. Like, it's not like he's a 9-year veteran and he showed up in the offseason as a free agent signing and they all know what to do, right? Caleb's got a lot on his plate to learn. And I think he's got pretty fast developing chemistry with Rome Odunze. And I think he's got some work to do with Keenan Allen. And I think it's just going to take time. I think it's probably going to take probably another month or two, honestly, to get everyone on the same page, because I mean, it's a rookie quarterback who's got to learn a new offense. He's learning a new coaching staff. He's going through all these meetings. He's learning, the cadence and the play call and the operation. And then he's doing throwing sessions. So it's a lot on a 22-year-old's plate, and he'll get there, but it's just going to take time. And some chemistry is going to come along a lot faster than others. And I talked to Rome about it after the game, and they feel like those two are in a really good spot. And I think that probably also says a lot about why the Bears drafted Rome Odunze, right? And why that was such a good idea, because they found a guy who clicks with Caleb, and they probably had some inside information that those two would click just based on the talent levels and the throwing sessions that they'd had, before the draft. And I think that turns out to be even better idea if the Keenan Allen chemistry takes a while to develop, because you have a guy in Rome Odunze who seems to be kind of figuring things out with Caleb at a pretty quick pace.
Sticking with time and figuring things out, thoughts on the fact that the offense, or both sides, but particularly Caleb, was extended until before the second half. That was surprising in a good way, particularly with Matt Eberflus. I feel like it shows some growth during the broadcast. They interviewed Ryan Poles, and he mentioned the fact that he liked the fact that they extended and left Caleb out there to kind of work on the rust. We don't know. I know Matt Eberflus said that they'll talk tomorrow, if perhaps, I think more Caleb than anybody's, maybe get a series or two Thursday night's game versus the champs in Kansas City. But thoughts on them leaving Caleb out there to really kind of get it going, since it was so hard those first several series on the offense.
Very necessary. Extremely. I mean, it would have been, if they would have yanked him after the 3 and outs, he would have to play Thursday. And it does show growth for Matt Eberflus from the days of, hey, Justin and the starters are going to play 2 series. And if it's 6 plays, guess what? It's 6 plays. And then we're going to show up at Green Bay and get our teeth kicked in. So this is much. That's what happened. It's what happened.
You threw a screen to DJ Moore. DJ Moore took it to the house, and they're like, all right, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Hey, wrap it up. Yeah. But yeah, put the helmets away. Showed growth. Great by Matt Eberflus. They have to do it. And I think especially because you have the quick turnaround on Thursday, and maybe Caleb plays, but I doubt it, because I don't see them trotting out the first team offensive line on 3 days rest. So I think he got to 43 plays. They wanted 45 to 65. Probably good enough.
They got close. Plus joint practice. Joint practice was great.
Oh, yeah.
I bet.
That's good
feel
for
great
that's
about
good
how
for,
joint practice
good,
went.
Good for 100 reps. Joint practice in the reins, That's 100 reps.
I think people get caught up in how long into the game the starters played. It's, as Josh said, you're really looking at the snaps. And when you go 3 and out 3 times in a row, what is that? 9 snaps? They needed more than that, So if the Bears had put together a field goal drive and then a touchdown drive, and they got to the 20 snaps in 2 series, and those 2 series happened in the first quarter, bet we wouldn't have seen them in the second quarter. But because it took them a while to get to that snap count, to get to that threshold that, okay, they've gotten some good work in, that took time into the second quarter. I think that's the biggest issue. And then I think it's just nice that as the game went on, that they found a little mojo. And, I was a little doom and gloom about the 3 and outs and the other stuff earlier, but, they talk a lot about demeanor, about responding to adversity, about forgetting about the last play and focusing on the next play. And this is another case where, if you want to paint a nice silver lining on it, Caleb Williams shows great demeanor, shows great, stick-to-itiveness, and doesn't let the 3 and outs phase him. They take the deep shot. It's not a completion, but It's a big chunk play because of the DPI. And then from there, they find that rhythm. They find that mojo. They forget about the 3 and outs and they start getting into a rhythm. So it just happened to work out that way. But I think it just happened to work out that way because, like I said, those first 3 series were 9 snaps.
Listen, I hope I'm with you that that's probably what happened. I hope if it went well, they still would have played him somewhat in the second quarter because he still needs more. You can't just I think it's better that he did start off poorly or the offense started off poorly because it takes you through the transition of learning what's going to happen in a real NFL game where you may start off bad and you may have to figure this out, and that's where I think it may have benefited them how things played out today. Offensive line, guys, of course, you had the sack. You mentioned Nate Davis whirling. You had the false start. I know Caleb took a little bit of the heat for that, but you're playing against, second stringers basically, and the offensive line still didn't seem like a unit that has made a market improvement going into this upcoming season.
Yeah, I think what was go ahead, Josh.
No, go, Alex. Let it rip.
I think what was troubling is the lack of running space for guys like Khalil Herbert and Travis Homer because Roschon Johnson wasn't suited up. There wasn't a ton of push forward where it's like, okay, the first point of contact for these guys is 2 yards down the field or 3 yards down the field. In a lot of the cases, the point of contact was at the line of scrimmage or a little bit behind the line of scrimmage. That to me was troubling. And then, the pressure did come from a few different areas. We knocked Nate Davis, but Tevin Jenkins gave up some pressure. Braxton Jones gave up some pressure. I didn't notice off the top of my head Darnell Wright giving up pressure, so I guess maybe a little gold star for Darnell Wright on my first watch in real time without rewatching it or without watching the All-22. But it wasn't just the pass pro stuff. The run game stuff was also didn't look great.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't think it was very good at all. I didn't think they ran the ball first team at least very well in Buffalo. They didn't run it very good today. And the pass protection is an issue when you're facing, we don't need to hammer that they're facing the Bengals 2s and 3s, but like Braxton Jones cannot be getting beat off the edge like he was getting beat off the edge. Like that it just can't happen. Like if it's Trey Hendrickson, okay, fine. That's a perennial potential Pro Bowler. Awesome. Great. That's fine. I don't know who is. I mean, like Chris Jenkins spun Nate Davis like a top.
Rookie Chris Jenkins.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, rookie Chris Jenkins. It's just that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff can't happen. I mean, this is you have this massive, really detailed development plan for this potential generational rookie quarterback. You've done such a good job, and then this O-line, it just doesn't look good. It just doesn't. And I talked to Tevin after. I said, "How you guys feel? It's the first time the 5 of you were out there. 3 weeks since Nate's. We're we feel good. We're getting after it, and it just doesn't. And I think Ryan Bates should start at right guard when he's back. I don't think that's going to fix everything because that's not going to make Braxton Jones better. Braxton Jones has been talking about getting better against the bull rush for 3 years. He still needs to get better against the bull rush. Like we kind of are where we are at this point. Stop it. I don't need that kind of, it's like, and like, I like Tevin, the false starts on Caleb, I know, but that can't happen, like that kind of stuff. The operational stuff also can't happen. Tevin gave us some pressures. I think I'm with Alex. I didn't see Darnell give up anything, but as a unit, it doesn't look good. And if this is the 5 that's going to go out there against Jeffrey Simmons in 20 days or whatever, that's not good. That's not great. It needs to get a lot better and it needs to get better fast. And they're probably not going to play on Thursday.
Seems like they have a whole lot in common with the Bengals when you think about a young Joe Burrow and not fixing that offensive line. And hopefully we don't have the injuries here.
Hopefully the similarities end right there.
Right. Yeah.
But then also the Super Bowl appearance.
We'll take that.
So we'll skip the injury and we'll go to the Super Bowl appearance.
Good one. We'll exchange that. Tyson Bagent had another good game, 7 of 8, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a QB rating of 151. Thoughts on the backup, man? He is really looking good, looking like a guy that if Caleb does go down due to poor offensive play or just the injury in general, that Tyson will be able to do what he did last year, but he has a whole nother season under him that perhaps it won't just be 500. Perhaps it'll be a winning record if he has to come in or forced to come in this upcoming season.
Yeah, no, Tyson still got it, man. I still believe Tyson Bagent's an NFL quarterback. He's a hell of a backup. I think the work he did to become more dynamic as a thrower looks like it's paying off. The arm strength looks a little better. He's just a dude, right? He's just a grinder. He's a worker. He's got it. The Bears are set at backup quarterback. You know, Ryan Poles has made a lot of good moves, and finding that is one that deserves a lot of praise. I don't know how that guy didn't get drafted in the 6th or 7th round with all the yards he put up at Shepherd, but he can throw the freaking football. So I think Tyson's played his butt off. There was never any competition with Brett Rippon. Tyson's going to be QB2, and he looks good. Like that QB room's pretty set.
Yeah, he's a confirmed NFL player. And I'll say the same thing for Dante Pettis. You know, Tyson Bagent and Dante Pettis going up against the Bengals 3rd and I guess 4th stringers by that time of the game, it's like almost unfair because, you know, Tyson Bagent is confirmed NFL quarterback. Dante Pettis is definitely an NFL pro. And he was just running these super crisp routes, getting super open, and Tyson Bagent was putting the ball on him, you know, for those 2 touchdowns. It looked like pretty much pitch and catch between those 2 guys. So, yeah, you know, depth-wise, this is another area where the Bears are just unrecognizable from 2 years ago when Ryan Poles took over this team, when it was like, if somebody went down, it was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, who's this guy? Who's playing here?
Exactly.
Straight off the streets.
I mean, look at the cornerbacks. Look at the cornerbacks. I mean, the Bears are so deep. You have Jalen Johnson and Tyree Stevenson, who are both, you know, look to be like great players. Terrell Smith is every bit as good and, you know, is probably competing for starting snaps elsewhere. And then even Greg Stroman, who was a slot guy who is now been playing some, you know, outside corner, has looked absolutely fine as an outside corner, like totally respectable player. Those are premium positions where
Josh
you want
Blackwell too.
Josh Blackwell playing nickel, right? Exactly. If you want to go through the nickels, Kyler Gordon looks like an absolute stud in year 3. Josh Blackwell looks fine.
We're getting into that. We'll get into the
nickel discussion.
Slow that down just a second. Slow it before we jump from the offense.
The linebackers look good. The
we're getting into
Elijah
that.
Hicks looks so much better in year 3.
We're gonna when you have an article talking about the bubble guys, we're gonna get into that. All right.
But yeah, the depth looks so much better.
And listen, okay, so I got a couple more offensive things before we go to where Alex wants to go on the defensive side. All right. So this is Ken Pie in the Sky, because growing up a Bears fan, you always watch Ron Wolf and Mike Holmgren pitch off quarterbacks in trades like they got, like it's just monopoly, right? And I'm watching Tyson Bagent. Yeah, I'm watching Tyson Bagent like, we can trade him with that season. Right? Like he can be something. I don't care if it's a 5th round. Like he can get us. And that's I'm giving him props to where he can be someone, a guy or whatever. I don't know what his future may be, but he can be a guy. And again, this is pie in the sky, me saying that. But the real thing I want to ask you guys, what, if any other player stood out to you on the offensive side this game and this week in joint practices versus the Bengals?
Offensive player.
If there's none, we can move on.
No, I mean not this week. I mean, I think Pettis would probably be the only one I would imagine. I mean, Colin Johnson remains unavailable. So
Valus at the running back position, guys. Anything?
Yeah, I mean, fine. Shout out to his shout out to his ferret, I guess. Yeah, like fine. I mean, I think the saving grace for Valus might be that, you know, all these guys that are competing for wide receiver 5 and 6 are hurt. Like DeAndre Carter's banged up, Colin Johnson's banged up. Dante Pettis had a nice game. Like Valus might make the 53 just because there's not anyone else to take his job right now until we get to waivers. But it hasn't done anything special for me. And I think when we talked about it, Ken, earlier, like I think the Valus to running back thing was about Valus. That's not about the Bears needing running back depth. I mean, I know Roshan's banged up, but they don't need Valus to play running back. That's just like, hey, Valus, can you show us something to guarantee you the spot? Because keeping just a kick returner is going to be a very tough sell.
I kind of like Valus Jones as a running back, though. I kind of like how he looks. Like
Well,
obviously,
sure, yeah, he looks better than he looks as a
about
wide receiver.
Yeah, no, it looks a lot better than he looks as a wide receiver, which is why I like it. Because if the whole point is like, how do we figure out how to get the ball in Velus Jones's hands? It's like, give it to him. And then if the hole is there, and even if the hole isn't there, I like the way he kind of attacks contact. And we've talked about this, and he shows the burst. He's big for a running back. I like how it looks, and that's not, I'm not endorsing him to be the backup behind, I'm not even endorsing him to be the third guy, right? Like,
I was going to say,
the Bears do not need him.
Yeah, I'll say if we get to a point where
back.
Caleb Williams is handing the ball to Velus Jones, something went horribly wrong.
Right. But in a vacuum, if the question is, what do you think about Velus Jones as a running back? I'm like, I kind of like it. I do kind of like it. And if there's a few plays and a couple packages that you put him in there for, like the Rome Odunze end around that we saw today. We've seen Velus Jones run that end around and score touchdowns on those plays. If there are a few things like that he's adding more value to this team, if he is struggling to add value as a wide receiver, why not? I'm all for it, especially as Josh said, if he's going to be on this team, why not?
My last thing offensively, and it just crosses my mind, and I don't think we've seen it yet, and it'll be interesting to see how Shane Waldron marries the pass and the run game, but really I want to focus on the run game and how diligent he is with the run game. I don't think the league is, and it took a second for Justin to really exploit his running ability. I think when the league kind of sees what Caleb can do running the ball, it may benefit the offensive line like we saw the last few years with the Bears, where the offensive line wasn't necessarily great. But when you had an ultra threat in Justin, you're taking a linebacker or a defensive player out, and it allows the running backs to do a lot more damage. And I just wonder, do you guys perhaps, and not saying it's going to be the same as Justin, because Caleb is not that dynamic athlete that Justin is. It's only two other guys that's maybe in the league at QB that you can say like that. But do you see that perhaps opening up the running game this season as the league starts to prepare for what Caleb can do on the outside, but also running perhaps to get first downs and touchdowns like you did today?
Could be. I mean, especially when you talk about it, like, as you say, I don't think it's going to be a plan to have a spy on Caleb Williams right away, or to run the type of contain, concepts that defensive ends kind of had to run. And we haven't seen the option stuff as much as we did. I mean, we saw a ton of option stuff with Justin Fields where defensive ends had to like kind of crash that mesh point,
Atlanta.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it would take some time to get there, but you're absolutely right. I mean, the NFL is a league of adjustments, and it's always about how are you going to adjust to the adjustment. So if teams are dropping a lot into coverage and, doing these zone concepts, and Caleb Williams continues to do what he, did against the Bills and kind of recognize, oh, hey, I can take off and get this first down. If he continues to do that, then yes, defenses will adjust. And yes, that could absolutely help other facets of the offense.
All right, flipping to the defensive side of the ball. I usually start in with the trenches and flip to the trenches, but we're not doing that today. One of us, I think we all love this player, but I can't hate. One of us loves him a little bit more. And the thing when I see him play is, man, if he could only stay healthy. Nickel cornerback, Kyler Gordon, 4 solo tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. I mean, such a defensive weapon of threat. Great. Like when you just think about those cornerstone pieces in Brisker and Gordon, and how Gordon was getting just demoralized with his rookie year because he had to learn that for anybody.
The both thing was
outside
nonsense.
Inside.
That was so stupid. It remains dumb. It remains dumb.
It remains silly what they were doing, but also just how much it takes to learn your tails and your read on what you're supposed to do at nickel. All right, that's a whole lot that you have to process like that. And to look at the gains he had last year, and then he got hurt, but you right back on that horse this year. Thoughts on, of course, our guy, man, Kyler Gordon, looking like a stud and somebody that they're gonna have to pull that Brinks truck up to if he stays healthy in the Bears uniform. Yeah, it's you, Josh. He's your guy.
Yeah,
you love him the most.
Yeah, my thoughts on this. Like, I think, like you said, if he stays healthy, I mean, he is on the escalator to all pro. The guy is such an incredibly smart, fast, physical corner. He has made, I mean, incredible leaps last year. He looks faster again. Like, I just think the game is continuing to slow down for Kyler Gordon. I mean, I know Alex wrote about the nickel blitzes. He read a nice piece on that the Bears utilizing, and some Rondé Barber mentions in there. Kyler Gordon is, I think the Bears defense, we talk a lot about them wanting to be a top 5 unit and the pass rush being the key. Man, if Kyler Gordon's going to be a freaking Pro Bowl nickel, they're going to be a top 5 defense if they're healthy. Because he is flying around the field. It is, I mean, look, there was no rust today. He's been out, 3 weeks, 3+ weeks. There was 0 rust. Put that man in bubble wrap. We'll see him against the Titans. That was a home run pick by Ryan Poles. However, they evaluated him coming out of Washington, not only the coverage ability, the body movement, but the intelligence. Like you said, the intelligence it takes to understand the keys to quickly process everything, like the sack he had against Logan Woodside, where like the second it's like, boom, I'm gone. Like, I'm taking him to, like, he's getting body bagged. Like, he was gone. Like, it's the stuff that's the stuff that Pro Bowl nickels are made of. So as long as he's healthy, he's going to the moon.
Alex, real quick, listen, I don't mean this as a good thing. He's going to put somebody's quarterback out of the game. I just want to.
Yeah, he is. That. No, he is. He's so physical. He is so physical. Yeah.
But Alex, your thoughts?
He locked his helmet off on that. Right. On that sack. Helmet came off. He hit him so hard. It looks like he's just got another gear sometimes compared to the guys he's playing around. And that is a testament to, as Josh was saying, it's not only the speed, but it's the instincts. It's he's not even thinking, he's just going. He's just playing football. And, we say this, we've said this about Jack Sanborn. Dude is just like football player. You just look at that guy and you're like, that's a football player. I look at Kyler Gordon the same way. I look at a guy like that, DJ Moore. You look at the way those two guys play, it's like you just simply are a football player. And fortunately for the Bears, it's an extremely important position in this defense. They call base the 3 linebackers, but for all intents and purposes, their base defense is with the nickel out there. So having him as a little push in case of 3rd and 9 and we want to do something different to go after the quarterback, even having that threat of doing that, it adds a wrinkle. It's another thing where this defense becomes multiple, right? It adds confusion. It adds another layer for teams to think about. If teams already need to think about Montez Sweat is there and Jalen Johnson is there and Kevin Byard is always a threat to make a play on the ball and Tremaine Edmonds is huge and TJ Edwards is racking up every tackles. If you also have to think about, and Kyler Gordon can make a play in both phases of the game, run, pass, it adds a wrinkle. And he looks really good.
I think it's one thing to have a really nice unit and they all fill in the gaps for one another. And I believe this unit does that. But another key is they have high-level players. When you're talking about Jalen Johnson, you mentioned Kevin Byard. You look at you're trending to one of the better nickel cornerbacks in the league. And we know when you're talking about a cover 2, you're going to need a sweet nickel cornerback if you're running this, particularly as you just said, Alex. You're going to be in a nickel primarily majority of the time in the passing league or whatever. Anything else as far, because I know my guy really wants to jump into the DBs. All right, I had to slow him down. Anything else as far as the DB play, and also including this week, because Josh, we didn't get to talk to you this week. We had the 3 interception practice, but it looks like again, this could be one of the best defensive backfields in the league. I want to say the best because I'm a Bears fan and I don't care what anybody else does. But your thoughts on this defensive backfield. And, of course, we want more pressure from the front 4. But, man, when you're getting coverage sacks, that's another blessing also.
No, look, I mean, we could beat the drum all we want. They are deep. They are super talented. They got to be healthy, right? I think Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker they've just got to be healthy. Because if those 5 are out there for, let's say they play 15 games together, it's probably going to be the best defensive backfield in the NFL. I mean, Jalen Johnson was an All-Pro, second-team All-Pro, Pro Bowl corner last year. He looks better this year. I mean, he had T. Higgins in absolute hell in joint practices, and I know it was raining, so Joe Burrow was first to say, "Hey, I couldn't even really grip the ball, so it's slipping and slide. We don't go downfield that much." But I mean, there was no separation. I mean, T. Higgins might as well not even practice. It wasn't even worth his time. I think Jalen Johnson is very motivated to be first team All-Pro. Right? He's talked about, okay, I got to start working for my. He's talked about the slides of the NFL top 100. They didn't put him there. He's elevated his game, and the key to me remains Tyreek Stevenson, who I think is very talented and got absolutely roasted last year and started getting better. And if he can get better, if he can be a B+ corner all year and at least make teams think about throwing at Jalen Johnson, they're going to get a lot of turnovers, man. They're going to get a lot of turnovers, and it's going to help that front four, because even Matt Eberflus said today, they still got to figure it out. They got to figure out who it's going to be opposite Montez Sweat. It's a work in progress. But the back 5 is incredible when healthy.
It's nasty, man. It's nasty. Did you want to add any?
I mean, I think the backups look good too. Terrell Smith.
Oh yeah, no question. No question.
So it wasn't just Kyler Gordon coming on the nickel blitz. They had Reddy Stewart do it a time or two. Josh Blackwell. Josh Blackwell blitz. He hits him right as the ball's being thrown. It's a fluttering pass. And Amon Bamiga. Oh, it was so close. You got it.
Bamiga. Yeah.
I think I had it. No. He comes down with the interception. Reddy Stewart, he comes on a blitz. He speeds up the clock. So it's interesting. Kyler Gordon, I spoke with him after the game about the blitzing. And we know he loves to do it. Everybody loves to blitz because it's like, yeah, I get to hit the quarterback now. And he was saying that, those are game-changing moments. And I thought he was talking about it's a game-changing play because you get an interception and now now your offense has the ball. But he's like, nah. It's a game-changing moment because now the quarterback who I just rocked does not want that to happen again. So for the rest of the game, he is going to be looking to make sure he doesn't get hit. And that clock is going to speed up because we just rocked his world. And we saw that happen on that moment where the nickel is coming. He sees it and he's like, oh no, I'm going to throw this ball right now. And what happens? Terrell Smith, who's playing in his zone, he doesn't see him back there. So Terrell Smith undercuts the ball, interception. So, even when the nickel blitz there's not even a QB hit, it speeds up that clock. And it doesn't have to be the nickel blitz. It could be TJ Edwards blitzing, who was excellent blitzing last year. It could be stunt games. It can be a safety coming down. Jaquan Brisker is a big hitter. But these are the things where when they have the pressure come from more places, not just the front four. And we have seen that, right? Like Eberflus has dialed it up from different spots. It can impact the game even when it's not like getting home. So Josh Blackwell looked really good. Terrell Smith as a backup has continued to look good. So yeah, obviously you want the starters out there because they're your starters for a reason. But that's kind of what I was getting at earlier. The depth is so much better now than it was that there are a few positions where, again, you don't want anybody to ever get hurt. But it wouldn't be such a devastating blow to some position groups because the depth behind them is so much more improved.
I know a show or two ago we were talking about perhaps the only place defensively that lacks depth is a linebacking core. So now has that, and I think I may have said something that when we mentioned Amon Agbegamogi Amunga, however, I don't want to pronounce it.
Oh no.
I mispronounced it bad. What's it's not
Agbongbamiga.
Agbongbamiga.
Agbongbamiga. Oh, Agbongbamiga. Okay, like if you tell me, I'll get it. I think I got it the first time that I butchered it. Anyway, enough about me. Linebacker depth now. Do you see him actually making the team? We talked about the fact that, Sewell hasn't been out there. Like, what's going to happen now? We're talking about the backup linebackers and also these guys being key when we're talking about special teams, particularly when we're talking about different body types we talked about here before with the new kicking rules.
I think he was always going to make the team because of the special teams prowess. It was, okay, will he contribute outside of special teams? And again, the Bears don't want him to play on defense because that means TJ Edwards is hurt, and TJ Edwards is an incredibly important piece of the puzzle. But I think this was the best that Amen's looked throughout the summer. I think there were moments where I was like, if TJ Edwards gets hurt, they could be in trouble. But, this is what the summer's for. It's for learning. It's for growing. It's for developing. And obviously the interception is what's going to make all the highlight reels, but he had other big tackles.
Yeah, he hit that gap and made the running back run the other way. If he doesn't hit that gap, you don't know what that could have been.
Totally.
So when you're not paying attention to how important that is in football, filling up your gap properly as soon as when you're supposed to, he did it. And those are the things. I'm not just saying it. Yeah. I'm not saying it's just off of an interception. I'm saying it by seeing him flash in different places where it seems like he's where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there.
End of the first half, he tracks a dude down who's running towards the sideline. The Bengals have one timeout. They're running their 2-minute drill. He tracks him down, keeps him in bounds, and brings him down. The Bengals are forced to use their last timeout. They run like one more play, and that's pretty much the end of their 2-minute drill. Those are big plays. It just shows up in the stat sheet as one tackle. That's a huge play because it really stalls out the Bengals' 2-minute drive and forces them to settle for a field goal. So, yeah, no, he had a super solid day today.
Pressure up front, guys. What we're still talking about, the fact that, look, this week they were in on the Matthew Judon situation, perhaps, maybe, whatever. I don't know if Hassan Reddick, with his being disgruntled with the Jets, fits the body type that they like. It doesn't seem like that would be a guy at 6'1" that they would kind of bring in. He doesn't seem like their guy. But thoughts on what they have now when it comes to pressuring the quarterback, and perhaps what they may do with cuts coming up, and of course still the opportunity to bring someone in to fill out the roster.
They've got some nice rotational pieces, right? Like I think
that. Don't play me. That's where we're going.
I think. I mean, Daniel Hardy has flashed. I think he's probably pretty much cemented himself as a roster guy. Probably took Jacob Martin's spot, who is just. I mean, that ankle injury. He's not. Yeah, he's hurt. He's not gonna be back. Dom Robb has been. We don't need to talk about it. He's probably gonna make the roster. I'm probably good there. No, thank you. Unsubscribe. Austin Booker is really kind of the key to this. I mean, he just continues to get better. It's like really like pretty steady progress for a guy who's so raw and so young. He took some snaps with the first team D line opposite. I know that's big. They're just trying to find something. I think the Judon trade, that's interesting, right? I mean, they offer a 3rd round pick. So the Patriots wanted probably the Panthers 2 they have. I was kind of out on the Judon idea just because I don't think that's like a next year move. Like that's like a Caleb Williams is ready. We're good to go. Let's go win. I think they're a year away from that. But I think it does tell you where they feel they're at on the D line, right? It gives you a nice sense if they're willing to offer a top 90 pick, right? That okay, well, Booker's going up. He's a rotational guy, but we don't really feel great about DeMarcus Walker being a steady 2 opposite Montez Sweat. And for Matt Eberflus, once again, Matt Eberflus, first 2 years, he would take any question about a specific thing and turn it into the most general answer. You ask him about player X and he's talking about a different position group. He would not answer anything. And all of a sudden, this training camp, he's being very direct. And he said after the game, we got to figure this out. Like, it's something that we still like. It was not like, oh, we feel good about this. It was like, we got to figure out the answers. So they're still looking. Yannick Ngakoue is still out there. They need to find someone. I like the DN 3-4 they have, right? 3-4-5. If you get someone ahead of Walker, if it's Sweat, someone, and then Walker, Booker, Hardy, then I kind of like it. But there's still a gap. We need to fill the gap.
Yeah, I imagine they will be looking on cut down day. This is where, so it's interesting the way the NFL has changed how they do roster cuts. In some ways, it's great for teams because they get to keep their players for longer. But in some ways, it hurts teams and, hurts players. So it kind of goes both ways, right? Players get to stick around longer. But if a guy had been cut from another team a little bit more quickly, maybe he hooks up with another team more quickly and gets a better shot of making an impact right away. And I imagine that, that may have been the case in past years with the Bears. They're maybe would have been looking for DEs who were just the odd man out in a stacked group, and they would have snatched him up and said, let's see what you can do here. It kind of like Alec Ogletree for a few years ago, right? Although I think he was off the streets. I don't think he was cut. I don't remember. But something like that where, okay, we are partway through camp. We're not really sure what we got going on. Let's take a look at the landscape. Oh, Alec Ogletree, he can help us out. Let's bring him and see what he can do. And he ended up being a really impactful starter for the team. So that's a long way of saying one cut down day happens, and it is just one cut down day now. The teams go from 90 to 53. DEs will hit the market, and some surprising names will hit the market. It happens every year. Like, whoa, that dude got cut. No way. And you got to imagine the Bears will probably be active in that marketplace.
I feel for Alex and myself that Josh has spoken for us at the proper rankings of the defensive ends. Like they had just right there, like pull them down a rung right there. Like you need a starter, baby.
Right.
Real quick, and I only got 2 more questions after this question for you guys, and then you got something else you want to say. The floor is open. When we're sitting there, and you just mentioned Yannick Ngakoue, Josh, and just how we just said we have a ranking. After seeing, and I know the sample size was Sweat guy here, but after seeing him playing here last year, does he answer the question as far as the opposite starting defensive end on the Bears team moving forward this upcoming season to really be able to apply pressure consistently with having that guy opposite Sweat? For
2024, I think he probably does. He's obviously not the long-term guy. I think he's probably their best option. Like I did think he did play better as everyone did once Montez Sweat arrived and everyone kind of fell into their roles, right? Justin Jones got a nice bag off that. So I think he does probably answer the question. He knows the scheme, right? It continues to make a lot of sense if you need to check this box to bring in a guy who knows the locker room, who knows the scheme, who knows how to play opposite Montez Sweat, who knows how to rush with Montez Sweat, who knows how to rush with Andrew Billings and DeMarcus Walker. So I think that answers the question this year, and I think that will be the first box that they try to address next offseason.
Defensive coordinator Eric Washington, can you guys tell us what he has brought from what you've seen at camp and also in these games compared to last year with the defensive coordinators and Flus taking over as a defensive coordinator, plus with the pressure that we've seen applied, and this could just be because it's preseason and it's practice, a glorified practice. Is this a continuation of what Flus was doing last year to create pressure going against what he naturally prefers to do with just sitting in the front four? Or is this a situation where Washington is also bringing this and there's added pressure because you have a different type of mindset coming in at DC?
I think Eric Washington has his fingerprints most on the defensive line because honestly, he's a defensive line guy. And he and Travis Smith, I'd be remiss not to mention Travis Smith because he designs a lot of these cool pass games also. We have seen the interesting stunts. We have seen guys lining up, not just DeMarcus Walker kicking in. We saw DeMarcus Walker kick inside a bunch last season. But now we've seen things like Austin Booker lining up at DT, and then they're doing stunt games off of that. So, it's like, oh, wait, Austin Booker, the guy who plays DE, is lined up at DT. What's going on? So your head's already spinning. And then off of that, they're doing another wrinkle. I think he brings that to the table. He was obviously calling plays. I didn't notice, Josh, maybe you did. I don't know if he was calling plays today, but he was calling plays previously in the preseason. Mm-hmm. So he's the guy dialing up those blitzes. But it's interesting that the blitz thing kind of went on a bell curve last season where they didn't blitz hardly at all because that's their thing. And then they realized, oh, whoa, we're not getting any pressure. And the blitzing rate went way up. And then Montez Sweat got there and it took a little while. But then after Montez Sweat was there for a few weeks, it tailed off again. So the blitz rate it fluctuated last year. And without knowing the numbers, I looked them up. Pro Football Reference doesn't have blitz numbers yet. It's just the preseason. It feels like it was a little bit more than at the tail ends of those bell curves when they weren't blitzing a whole lot. It feels more like it was in that middle section. I'm not saying that they're blitzing 35% of the time. I don't think the Bears are ever going to be that team, but maybe closer to 20% rather than 14% or 15%, whatever it was. And again, this is all based off me watching. We don't have the numbers yet. I'm sure the Bears do, but Pro Football Reference does not. So that's more just like my feel.
Yeah, I mean, the eye test would tell you they're blitzing more the preseason. I think they're using the preseason where a lot of teams stay pretty vanilla defensively. The Bears seem to be actually using it as experimentation, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that pretty much everyone on this defense is returning, and I think Matt Eberflus has a pretty good judge of what everyone can do, and so I think he's going to be able to dial up different things. Like he was asked in the presser today about it, and he kind of made a crack of like, what was my blitz percentage? Because he knows we all think he doesn't blitz, and I think he has a better sense of what all the personnel can do. And if it's year 2 and year 3 of this scheme for everyone, I think he's probably be more comfortable dialing up a bunch of different things.
All right, guys, now with training camp getting closer to close and this game being the dress rehearsal as far as the last game this Thursday, they're probably not going to have the starters out there. How do you kind of feel about what you've seen at camp in the last 2 games with the starters out there playing?
How do I feel? I'm incredibly bullish on the long-term trajectory. I think the long-term trajectory is awesome. I think there's going to be bumps this season. I think there's certainly going to be games where things just don't click. I think Caleb Williams is an incredible talent. I think he's a wildly intelligent quarterback. Like, I think people don't really understand a lot of times how hard it is to play freaking quarterback. And Caleb Williams you've got to basically be a savant to play at the level that he's capable of playing at. Now it's about consistency, polishing, maintaining. They got a ton of talent. They've done incredible work. They've got a couple big holes. The offensive line concerns me. It concerns me massively. I cannot send out the siren loud enough here. Like, it is a problem. I am incredibly worried about this offensive line. If you scrap the offensive line, I feel good. I still think they probably go 8-9.
I will be concise. Defense is ready. Offense is not, but it would be crazy if the defense was ready. I would not expect the offense. It would be unrealistic to expect the offense to be ready right now on August 17th.
Alrighty. For Josh and Alex, Claire and Tony, I'm Ken. We always appreciate you all taking a little time. The preseason's been pretty cool. Bears are undefeated right now. I don't know what that means going into the season. Yeah, that's crazy. Even though it may not mean nothing, but even though there have been some teams that played well like this in the preseason and carried it on to the regular season, definitely look forward to talking to you guys midweek and breaking down this last game against Kansas City, the champs. The Bears are traveling to KC. And then find out who is going to make it in camp, who's going to get cut, and who's going to be the backups. Everybody, please be safe, and we always look forward to talking to you down the line. Thank you.
Congrats, you finished the video. If you want to build on that success, download the NBC Sports Chicago app. It's got highlights, exclusive insights, and push alerts tailored to you. Everything you need to be a real Chicago sports fan. Download it now.